Looks like we're doing this again. So as you may remember, last year I participated in the CosTube 20 questions challenge that was going around. And this year, as an actual official member of CosTube, I'm going to be participating again. I don't want to waste too much time on the intro because we have 33 questions to get through this year, and I am afraid that this video will turn into something that is like 40 minutes long. So here we go. I think if I had to like really narrow it down, that's hard to say. I like sewing a lot of things. Like, I enjoy sewing for cosplay, even though I don't really cosplay all that often. I enjoy sewing for dance. I enjoy sewing for theater. I enjoy sewing for my own personal use. This dress, for example, and the underdress I made to go with it, I made for watching Jane Austen movies in with my friend Rachel, only to find out that she actually did not enjoy Jane Austen movies and had been humoring me the whole time. Thankfully, I found this out before I started making hers, because we were gonna have matching ones. Yeah, sorry, Rachel. I believe it was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. There was a small production of it that my family and I went to, because it was like a homeschooler day and you could get in half price. No, it wasn't The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it was the Nutcracker. And if you got there 3 hours early, a bunch of people from the production staff would walk out on stage and just explain a little bit about who they were and what they had done. And there was this lady who walked out on stage and all the dancers were behind her, and she just said, "My name is," whatever her name was, I genuinely do not remember. And then she gestured at all of the dancers behind her and she said, "And I made all of this. Everything that they're wearing, I made that." And I remember watching this and I was like, what? Because in my head, I mean, I was really young at the time. I want to say I was like 4 or 5, maybe 6. So in my head, like, clothes just magically appeared, you know? I hadn't really thought about, like, clothes as something that you could make before then. And it just blew my little mind. And then I started, like, trying to pick apart my clothes and, like, figure out how they were made and asking all kinds of questions. And apparently we had a sewing machine in our house and I had no idea what that was for. And then I got to play around with it, and then I broke it, and then we got another one. It was a whole thing. Thank you, Mom, for bearing with me through all of that. I'm having a bit of a lace moment, but I'm also really enjoying satin ribbons. And I have a lot of materials that I really like working with, so it's really hard to answer what my favorite one is, but I'm gonna say probably lace and leave it at that. My dream event or photo shoot is honestly just like any kind of meetup with other people who sew costumes. Like, I just want to sit down and talk with people. I think because I am so interaction starved, my dream meetup would be like 5 or 6 people, like a manageable amount where you could talk to everyone and we would all be like sewing together and eating macaroons. Perfection. The person who taught me was named Melody Long, and she was honestly just one of the sweetest and most amazing women I've ever met. Like, just amazing. Before freshman year of high school, I was self-taught. So I would go to the library and I'd get all kinds of books, or I'd read online articles like Blog Lovin'. I'd made a handful of things for myself, and this girl that I knew just called me up out of the blue and she's like, "Hey, you sew, right?" Which is always a terrifying question, but I was only like 14, 15 at the time, so I didn't know how terrifying that question was yet. And she was like, "We need a costumer for a musical. Can you just like get over here?" And I was like, "Oh no, I think I can do that. Yeah, let's go." And so I did all this research and I get all my portfolio together and I show up, and thankfully there's already a woman there. They just needed a second costumer because she was overworked and just not able to handle all of it because it's a huge job. And so the two of us together did Arena Fair Theater's costumes for 4 years? We did quite a few shows together and it was a really fun time. I also learned from Jackie Shelley at the Chapelier Theater. She had been Parson trained and she was really strict. So like, she whipped my butt into shape, I will tell you that. For example, I made like 3 corsets to go into our rotation of undergarments. And I want to say the first one that I put together, I was like, yes, made a corset. No, I know what my proudest moment was actually, as embarrassing as it is. I made these god-awful, fully adjustable ball gowns because we had a scene and we didn't know who was going to be in it because community theater, things are always rotating. And I made these fully adjustable ball gowns that could go from size extra extra small to an extra extra large. They could fit literally everyone in our cast. And they weren't very pretty because I had a budget of $5 a dress, and so I ordered like costume satin online, and they looked awful up front, and I hated them so much. And then I was sitting back in the front row, and we're doing the first dress rehearsal, and everyone comes on stage, and they're wearing these dresses that I made, and the lights hit it just right to where you can't see that it's cheap polyester satin that I got from a party store, and you can't tell that all the rhinestones and bedazzles are hand sewn on plastic acrylic beads that I got from a party store. All you see is these beautiful glittering dresses, and everyone's wearing them, and it's cohesive and beautiful, and it looks like a real musical with a real budget. Like, they did not look like $5 dresses, and the corset details on the side and in the back looked so nice. It was a beautiful moment. Okay, so there was this awful pair of red breeches that I made as my first project with the Chapelier Theater, and I did everything wrong. I messed those pants up so badly that they had to be recut. They had to be scrapped and recut. Which is really embarrassing, but it turned out for the best. We did get another pair of red breeches. I had to remake them, and I did it correctly the second time, and I still got everything else that I was supposed to do done, so wasn't that bad, but it was very scary, and I definitely learned a lot, so I use a mixture of all three. If it's something that I do not want to draft myself, I go commercial. Usually that would be a corset. I usually use Ariana Black corsetry because her patterns are free and amazing. They're really good patterns. I drape if it's something that I know that I want to have a certain movement to or certain look, and I draft a lot. I trace if it's an expensive multi-size pattern that I know that I'm going to want to use again. I cut if it is a PDF pattern and I can just print another one, worst case scenario. Pattern weights, hands down, pattern weights. Oh, so many. I want to learn lace tatting, I want to improve my embroidery skills, but realistically I think the skill that I most need to learn is pacing myself and not having such rigid deadlines. I have 2 yards of catil in 2 different colors that I am waiting to buy for obvious reasons. I want to make myself some nice corsets because I have never made one for myself personally, and I am very excited for that. In my UFO bin, there are currently only 3 projects. A pair of shorts that I need to finish for another pattern company, and there's a quilt that is going to take me forever, and I know that that's just going to be forever, and a skirt that has needed a hem for the past like 9-ish months. So, yeah. The most unconventional material I've ever used is either clear plastic vinyl for the coats in Fahrenheit 451. The medics had these really cool clear plastic vinyl coats. I don't know if I have any pictures of those, so I will have to go digging. I also did this project where I ironed a bunch of blue plastic bags to get them to fuse together, and then I cut out scales and sewed them all onto fabric, and I planned on making like a full mermaid tail, but that fell through. Sorry about my voice. My thyroid has been weird lately, and like it's affecting how I talk and stuff, so I sound like a blues singer today and I'm coughing a lot. I don't have the Rona. It's just my thyroid. Honestly, everything. Like, I want to revisit Regency soon. The 1920s, I have a lot that I want to do there because the silhouette is so bizarre. I want to do medieval. I have a lot of Lolita that I want to sew. I have a couple of cosplay techniques I want to try out. Like, I want to do everything. I really do. My biggest pet peeve is when people sew over pins, just because, like, it's technically safe, but you could lose an eye. And, like, I know someone that was sewing in the theater and the needle came down on a pin and her pin snapped in half and the needle snapped in half and both pieces went flying and one bounced off her cheek and the other bounced off her chin. So technically speaking, it was possible that she could have lost both eyes in that moment. Like, it's not scary until it is scary. And I don't judge people too harshly for it. I just try to forget if I know that they sew over pins. I have been known to leave obnoxious comments in people's little comment box to be like, hey, please don't sew over pins. I care about your eyes. But, like, it's a thing for me. Like, I just don't want to see anybody lose an eye. I'm very passionate about not losing eyes. That's a hard one. I really enjoy ironing things, as weird as that sounds. I used to melt things with my iron when I was a kid because it just fascinated me so much. And still, like, whenever I'm ironing anything that has, like, at all a polyester or synthetic blend to it, I'm like, I could just melt this if I wanted to. It just makes me feel powerful to iron things. I might be confessing, like, too much of myself right now. This is the only arena in which I'm like, I could destroy this thing. So, judge me as you will. So basically, since the pandemic, I started a small business online. I'm selling PDF pattern pages. I don't have, like, too many out yet. I keep losing files, which is just awful. I think what I really learned this year is that I need to relax and just have fun with it and stop putting so much pressure on myself to achieve. Would you like to revisit? That's a good question. There's actually a costume that I'm planning on revisiting twice. One of the revisitations is happening in May, and that video is mostly recorded and mostly finished. So at the end of May, the very last video, that is going to be one of them. And then I plan on redoing the same project again next May. So something to look forward to. I'm gonna leave that as, like, a little teaser trailer. Oh my gosh. I used to be such a cheapo when it came to buying sewing tools, and basically in, like, the last 4 years I have decided that that is not going to be a thing anymore. And so I haven't bought a ton, but, like, I have a nice seam ripper now. I've made choices when it comes to thread. What else have I done? There's so many things. I think my French curve, actually. Because I bought the French curve thinking, like, oh, I'm gonna do all this drafting by hand on paper. I'm gonna need a French curve, and I think I've used it like 4 times. I like having control over what part of my curve has an apex in what section, so even whenever I'm drafting by hand, I usually do free design my curves, and I guess I'm just too much of a control freak for it. Hand sewing in general, like, it's really tedious and it takes a lot of time, so I didn't really get much of an opportunity to do it until I started selfishly sewing, and I really enjoy it. And, like, when you finish a piece and you look at it, it feels really nice and meaningful because, like, you did that. Like, every little part of that you did, which is kind of just awesome. It makes me happy. Both. There are some projects that they're either unavoidable, like in theater, where it's like, oh, by the way, the main character needs this specific thing, or there'll be a project where it's like, I decide I want to do it, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go buy materials for it. And those just come up, they're unavoidable. But there also are a lot of moments where I will find secondhand materials are really notorious for me, and I know that I want to do a very specific thing with them, so I get them and I hoard them until that very specific thing becomes relevant. For example, I had a lot of thrifted fabrics that I just hoarded like a little dragon when I did community theater, because we never knew what we were going to get, and if I found a fabric that I was like, I could see this working for at least 3 things, I would get it and I would hoard it. And then when it came time to use it, I would just tell my director, oh hey, by the way, that tablecloth cost me like $3. My goal in the next like 10 years is to get to a point where I'm financially stable enough that I can just release crazy sewing patterns and give them away for free. Like, that is absolutely my dream, because I want as many people as possible to sew, which means that they have to have accessibility to the things required to sew. And so, yeah, that's my dream. I guess it said goals, not dream, but that's my dream. There's a lot of plans that I have in action. It would be really hard to pick one and just describe it, because I have so many plans. Like, this video would get way too long if I did that. So stay tuned. There's a lot of stuff coming. That's another one that really depends on the project. I don't like my rotary blade for small curves because I have one of the standard size ones. I don't have a little itty bitty one, so I can't really take it as controllably around curves. I also need to get a new blade for it because my blade is dull. So I guess I'm gonna say scissors, just because I have not gotten around to replacing my rotary blade, and it has been annoyingly dull for 3 years. Yikes. So Bobby and I have 2 dogs. We have Charity and we have Kenya. Kenya is half husky, half German Shepherd. Charity is Bobby's mom's attempts at creating mini Labradors, which is really fun. And then we have 2 German Shepherds as well. We have Faithful, who's the one you hear barking all the time, and we have Valkyrie, who is just the most precious little floopernoodle. Oh, and then of course we've got Zlinka, my roommate's cat, who absolutely terrorizes me while I'm filming. She's fun though, she's cute. Going too quickly, not going back and fixing things. Making plans that are really contingent on getting things done in a specific timeline and stressing myself out so much that I can't actually do that. Yeah. I'm trying, guys. I think the worst example of my bad sewing habits came out in a video that is about to release, where I'm making an underdress for a 1920s outfit, and it just, everything has fallen apart so much so that I don't think half of the footage is even usable. Like, it just, because I gave myself a day. And that was so not enough, and then I wound up using a second day, and then Google Drive updated and deleted all of my footage from the first day, so now I only have the second day. Ugh. Pins. No, I do not sew over pins. I sew barefoot like a little hippie child. Perpendicular because they're easier to remove as I'm sewing. Oh, tea, 100%. I met my husband in a tea shop. I drink tea daily. It's like kind of my only personality trait. Tea. I actually really enjoy listening to other people, like their sewing videos while I'm sewing, because then I feel like I'm sewing with them and we're buddies. A lot of people do that. I also like listening to my friend Keisha. I like listening to audiobooks, like the LibriVox recordings that are on YouTube. Those are my go-to. I love some Agatha Christie. I will listen to Bauhaus, I will listen to Between the Buried and Me, I will listen to He Is Legend, I'll listen to Showbread, like, it just depends on what I'm feeling. Oh, Sweetie Sprout, she comes up a lot, lovely lore. Yeah, I could just continue going on if I really, like, I sew a lot, so I listen to a lot. Which I'm sure everyone is gonna have the same problem with this question. So yeah, there's 33 questions. This is probably gonna be over a half hour long. There's no way that this is not gonna be over a half hour long, because I think I took about a minute a question. Yikes. So I hope you enjoyed this. There's gonna be like a whole playlist, and I'll have that linked somehow. This is my first costume collab, so I'm not really sure how this works yet, but oh well. And I am really looking forward to watching everyone's videos. Like last year, I think I watched like, I didn't watch all of them because there were 200, but I watched a good number of them, and it was so fun. But yeah, I decided I was gonna wear like the same outfit I did last time, but like upgraded. So I wore only the overdress with like a 1920s slip, and I'm mixing eras in like the worst possible way, but I really like this outfit. I really like this outfit. So I wore this for me. I hope you liked it, but like I like it and I'm having fun, so I don't really care if you like it. A lot's changed in this year. A lot has changed in this year. Anyways, that is all from me. I will see you next time. No clue when this video is coming out, so I have no clue what you're gonna see next. In the month of May, I'm gonna be doing a theme month, so be sure to subscribe and stick around if you want to see what the theme is gonna be. It's gonna be really exciting, and I'll see y'all later. Bye, friends! I do have a doctor's appointment, I promise. I'm taking care of myself. Kind of. I even have water, see? Self-care is flinging yourself off your filming off. I'm so proud of that. Great.